crazy amounts of highs and lows. Like I was hospitalized twice during those 9 months. I broke my collarbone 2 months out from the race.
So welcome everyone to another episode of Interviewing the Greats. Today, I'd say a friend and one of the first people I ever actually trained in sales when it came to AWS, Jonathan Nally. So firstly, Johnny, thank you so much for joining us. Give us a bit of an introduction, Jonathan. Who are you and how's life at Amazon?
All is good. Yeah. I first met Alex when I started out my journey at AWS as a graduate. Learned a hell of a lot during that kind of 3-month ramp up period. But yeah, I've been at AWS for 4 years, working as a BDR and moving into account management, where I'm now a strategic account manager looking after PE-backed customers. So yeah, really excited to share a bit about my story and some of my learnings, and hopefully give back to some of your listeners.
Very cool. So thank you very much. So before we talk about the kind of that BDR journey from starting in sales all the way up to kind of like PE backed account management now, have you always been on this trajectory of knowing you wanted to be in tech sales, or has it been a bit of a stagnated, fragmented journey on your way up?
Yeah, I would say it definitely wasn't something that I initially had in mind. So I studied commerce in University College Dublin, and in my degree and in Dublin universities in general, I was heavily exposed to careers in kind of banking and consulting, and my dad was also in finance, and I think banking and careers in finance are somewhat glamorized with movies like The Big Short and The Wolf of Wall Street, and as a result, I always thought my career was going to be going down the finance route. I even did some internships in a large telecommunications company in Jamaica called Digicel, and also in Ernst & Young, and I think that was where I initially thought that my career was going to go.
Just to quickly relate, I remember I started in banking, back office trading for HSBC when I was a kid. And I remember seeing numbers on a spreadsheet, men and women arriving at the office really early every day. And I thought the buzz of the room from kind of 7 o'clock till midday until late into the afternoon sometimes, it electrified me and excited me into, I thought this is life, this is work, this looks so fun, numbers, money, all of this stuff. And then suddenly you start to see what goes into it, and it loses its appeal. It loses the facade quite quickly, and you actually see a lot of the sacrifice and the commitment that a lot of men and women make in those worlds, in the finance, in the trading world, the broking world. And I don't know, I shifted my perspective quite quickly. Did you have a similar epiphany when it came to kind of like trading finance? Did you have a similar kind of like a wake up, as it were?
Yeah, like I have massive admiration for anyone in finance roles, and my roommate is in finance, and a lot of my friends are too. And same as you, like I was really excited by that sort of buzz around it. But the big epiphany for me was when I was in these sort of internships, crunching numbers and Excel. They weren't something I was uniquely gifted for, or it wasn't something that I had a strong ability to do. And I think what I realized, and it was quite a good piece of self-awareness at a pretty young age. I said, like, I might as well align my career to where I'm naturally quite strong. And I kind of, after doing these internships, I sort of like internally looked at myself and said, okay, I'm quite good with people. I love dealing with people, and I do have a natural inkling towards technology, and always been that sort of that way focused. So that sort of led me to pursue modules in my final year which were more technology focused, and I saw the kind of proliferation of the cloud as I was graduating, and AWS seemed like the best place to apply to explore that a bit more.
Could you just, Jonathan, talk to me a little bit about the inter-perspective journey you went on? Just what was one or two of the questions? And the reason I've asked that is my next question, by the way, is going to be about your sporting background. We've both shared a love for kind of like the Ironman, the training that goes into it, the cycling side of things. Run us through a little bit about the introspection you went on and some of the questions you'd ask yourself to get to know who really Jonathan is at his core.
Yeah, I think it boiled down to like personality wise, what are the careers that my personality traits would be strong in, and kind of looking at different sort of roles. So that actually swayed different ways, like consulting, sales, marketing, like, and they were the sort of roles that I looked at. And then coupled with that, then I also had things like, my, I would say, where I'm like where am I naturally interested as well. So that was also kind of an area. And I think most importantly, the the thing above all else to consider, and probably the most important question, is where are you actually going to enjoy the most, and where are you going to
Mm.
find the most fulfilling? Because you could be really, really good at a specific thing, but like naturally, but I think if you're not enjoying the process of getting better at those skills or at those qualities, then I thought that was an important thing to prioritize. So yeah, it would boil down to those personality traits, my interests, and then also what do I actually enjoy and what would I feel fulfilled in.
And that kind of links really nicely into the sports side of things. 'Cause I know we've in the past shared some passions around the sporting world, but run us through where sport fell into your life, like, and how that's kind of supported you through career decisions, life decisions.
Yeah, so growing up, I always played rugby and definitely gave it my best, but my old hand-eye coordination wasn't the strongest, and I played up to a decent level, but never reached the heights that I thought that I possibly could. And I think during COVID, it was an interesting time where there was all these 5K challenges and different things that everyone was taking up from a fitness standpoint, and I decided to take up running initially. And the 5K challenge during COVID was my first ever 5K. So that was my first 5K. And I remember, sorry, that's a lie. My first ever run was doing the 5K challenge, and I got to 4K and I blew up. And I like was huffing and puffing, and I remember going back into my house being so disappointed in myself. I was like, right, we'll go out again tomorrow, and I'm going to do this 5K challenge. So I failed
Yeah.
my first ever run, which is quite funny. And off the back of that, it sort of instilled in me an interest to, like, okay, I actually want to get good at this thing now. I've got a period of time where, like, I can actually put some work into it. And I think I ran most days that summer. And then off the back of, and then I ended up doing a marathon, my first marathon, which is a virtual marathon. And then I decided to sign up to do a full distance Ironman in aid of a youth mental health charity that my friends and I had set up called Tribe. And I had no sort of cycling or swimming experience at the time. So it was very much to be honest, I massively underestimated the amount of mental and physical commitment it takes to do a full distance Ironman. So that's where that sort of the sporting came into my life.
So, God, there's so much to unpack there. And the whole way through, I was smiling because you remember Ocean from your cohort? You
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
her? I remember her because we were doing a first day at Amazon and we were doing like one random fact about yourself, right? And she said that she held the record for like 11-minute plank or something. And still to this day, I'm sure she said 11 minutes or an hour or something mental. I'd have to ask her. She's in Australia at the moment, but I'll have to ask about it. Ever since this day, I've tried to do an 11-minute plank and I can't get anywhere near. So I'm trying to empathize with your first run a little bit. So in terms of the sporting things, how do you go from a virtual marathon to a full Ironman? Like, run me through your thinking about how you must have been either really confident in your ability or you just must really love ambitious goals. Which one is it? A bit of both? Which one is it?
Yeah, I think I think the only way, like, I'm a huge believer that the only way you truly shock yourself is by setting goals that really do scare you. And I think that's
Mm.
like the Ironman was an excellent example of that. I had no right to do an Ironman in the period of 9 months. But what I said to myself was, if I actually fully go all in with doing an Ironman and give everything to the training, I cut out drink, I went all in. My friends will tell you I didn't do any holidays or anything like that. And I was fully committed to executing this. And what involved was training every single day of the week, because if you're not running and cycling, you can be swimming. So it's one of these sports that it is full body. And I think the whole process of it, yeah, it took that 9 month period, and I like crazy amounts of highs and lows. Like I was hospitalized twice during those 9 months. I broke my collarbone 2 months out from the race, but I just like kept saying to myself, there's no way I cannot do this if I am on that start line with 9 months of training at my back. And yeah, it was an unbelievable experience. And I actually qualified for the Ironman World Championships off the back of that race as well. So I ended up doing quite a decent time, and that was a whole nother experience, which was insane.
Maybe part two we can tackle that, because there's something I wanted to ask you, which is obviously you have to put the work in. And my way of relating is I did 400k through the desert in 24 hours last year in Africa on a bike, right? And I thought all I imagined was what it feels like to grab the trophy at the end and what it feels like to go across the line. So can you just talk to us a little bit about the balance you found between imagining the feeling of starting and competing and finishing versus like when you're in the training, did your brain like just scream at you, let's just quit, give it up, you're not that good? Is there any of that self-doubt, or is it just you're constantly thinking about none of this matters, I need to get to where I'm going?
Yeah, it was sole focus on the actual goal, and it had like that's the way I do these sort of sporting events. Like in May I completed a 256 marathon in Copenhagen, and like the sub 3 was a massive goal for me. And I think that is what, in those, for the races that I've done, they're the thing, it's the goal that is really driving me on. But really at the moment, and after my last race, what I learned is you have to actually enjoy the process and stop focusing on the goal, because as soon as I do any of these races, and especially after Copenhagen, I did it, and even the Ironman World Championships, when I did it, as soon as I completed it, there's okay, that's done. Who cares? That was grand. You did it. No worries. And I think you almost lose a sense of, I don't know if you found that yourself, but like as soon as I'd done it, it was like, oh, it's not that big a deal anymore. But it was everything to me up until the point of me crossing the line. But after, you think, okay, there's nothing to do. So what I'm trying to do now is like try to enjoy the process. Try to look at, yeah, okay, you're getting up early and you're training a lot, but try to think about all the good that adds into my work life, or how that really keeps me disciplined in work and with friends and things like that. So I think, yeah, I think for my next race, whatever it is, I haven't decided, but I think I will try to really focus on the process as opposed to the end goal.
So my way of relating will be, I've always done events for Mind Charity. I think for me, emotional and mental health are one of the most important things that we should ever talk about when it comes to health, is because how someone is emotionally and mentally it really impacts and affects the way that they show up. And we've all had our moments of downs and highs and lows and all of this stuff, so we can all relate to this. But I've always done Mind Charity, right? And I remember I did the UK 3 peaks, but I put a 50-pound, 26-kilo tree on my back and did it. And I remember thinking, God, like leading up, as you do, right?
Just throw the tree on the back.
Yeah, well, I did it the year before. I was like, oh, that was fine. Let's do it with a tree. Let's see what happens. Anyway, so I did that. And I remember talking a lot about it. I would think I'm this great guy, and there'd be loads of recognition, and Sky News would come out and like film it and all this stuff. None of that happened, by the way. And I did the challenge, and at the end of it, I remember just sat in the car driving home thinking, what was the point of that? Like, why did I raised some money. Yeah, it's a cool photo and it's a cool story, but like, so what? There's got to be more. So the reason I share this is because I had to change something quite quickly and to think about more of long-term vision opposed to short-term dopamine or short-term wins. And the reason I'm saying this is because that drive home is where I came up with the idea of free sales training for single parents forever. And it's the pivot we took this year, and it's something that drives me now. But I don't ever ask how much I'm being paid for something anymore. All I ask is, who am I becoming? How much extra reach, how much extra support can I now give as a result of this partnership? And so I'm planting seeds for you here, almost of like, for me anyway, you have to have a long-term vision to something of like, this isn't just this next year of training for something. This is like part of who Jonathan wants to be 5-10 years time. And it's something that's driven me for a lot of the time now, is I want to be the guy that rewrote the sales industry and made it accessible to everyone, and that everyone can get into sales. And that's what I want to be known for. And it's now about working to that legacy. So everything I do, Africa and all the events I've done recently and what I'm going to do, is always to try and just prove and be the guy that is making sales accessible to everyone. So it's hopefully it plants a few seeds. I want to talk a little bit about the BDR experience for you. I want to speak a little bit about your grassroots, where you started, because sometimes when you have the experience you do going into a BDR role, starting at the bottom again and working up is sometimes you feel like I'm taking a step back. So could you just talk to me about applying for the job as an intern or as a graduate, sorry, for AWS, Amazon Web Services, and that BDR experience? Talk to us a little bit about the mindset of applying and starting as a BDR, starting at the bottom of a company and trying to work your way back up again.
Yeah, so like I think Amazon Web Services is set up quite uniquely in a way that it delegates a lot of responsibility to its BDRs to actually, build out their own go-to-market strategy and messaging, and to be in control of their success ultimately is what I believe. So like I really relish the opportunity being a BDR of, creating my own messaging and going out to customers, creating my own processes on how to, create opportunities. And I think that sort of freedom that they do grant you at AWS was an unbelievable experience. And starting, like in the company, like it was an unbelievable university to learn about cloud, learn about modern data systems, and really an excellent opportunity to engage with C-level executives and have a reason for them to talk. So the learning curve in that kind of 9-month period that I was a BDR was really, it was quite insane. I think like one of the things I did that was a bit different, but also really worked well for me was building a mechanism to help me create and make sure I was absolutely smashing my KPIs. Oh, sorry. And to do this, the mechanism I created was I set myself the goal of creating one opportunity every single day, no matter what. Rain, hail, or CrowdStrike outage, I was on the phone or I was trying to create an opportunity with my customers. And I think that I knew that if I could do that every single day, I would hit around 170% of my number. And over the course of those 3 months, across my 3 KPIs, I managed to achieve results of 265% average attainment across those 3 quarters. And I think it's an interesting example of like, I didn't have anyone telling me to create one opportunity a day. Like you have to think about, okay, this is my goal. How am I going to break it down? And I think, you are given that autonomy at AWS to do that. And yeah, it's an interesting and daunting experience, but yeah, it takes a bit of strategic thinking is what I'd say.
So I hope you don't mind me summarizing. The way I think I've heard what you said there is that no one's coming to save you. No one's going to come and give you the silver spoon or give you the roadmap. I tell you, Joe Ward, one of the old BDR managers, said to me once, Amazon is like there's treasure out there and there's a map. I'm holding a map, but you can't see it. So I've created my map. I know where the treasure is, but you now need to go and create yours. And a lot of people are like, well, we could save a lot of time if you just give me your map. And that's where I think Amazon is actually quite unique, is it's like there is a pot of gold out there and you can find it here, but you need to go and do the work to find the treasure and build the map. And it's the way I summarize it is no one's coming to save you. And I think it's one of the best things that's helped me is that like you really need to be clear on where you're going and you need to also be really committed to that path. And the minute it doesn't feel right, you get off and you find something else, right? So if you were to summarize, Jonathan, what were some of the top learnings for you in that BDR role? Like, if you were to summarize the top 3 points, what would they be?
Yeah, sorry, just before moving on to that, I think it's an interesting point you make, and it's actually a large part of what happens at AWS is down to how they hire, especially in the BDR function. So they knew they hired a lot of like-minded people that were going to be competitive, intra-competitive across themselves, and there wasn't actually a need for the manager to be, telling them how much KPIs they need to hit or how many goals they need to hit, because they knew that us as people and the grad cohort that I started with, we were going to be so competitive against each other that we were actually going to push each other to new heights. And I think that's like an interesting thing about the Amazon hiring philosophy. And I remember my old manager saying, our first quarter, we didn't have any KPIs. And she was like, we're going to let you see where your bar is at. So like we set our own KPI in the first kind of quarter, and it massively exceeded what we probably what the initial idea was. But it's an interesting philosophy, and I think yeah, that's just something I wanted to add on to there.
Yeah, well, it's a lovely thought, isn't it? Of like the glass ceiling. Like if I say to you, your KPI is 12, but you've actually got a capacity of 17, have I just stunted your growth? So it's a really good little tactic of saying, I'm excited to see how far you're going to go. I've got a standard, I've got an idea in my head of what I think you can do, but let's discuss this in 3 months, what you're giving it your all. And then it's like, oh my God, how far could I go? And a lot of people actually shrink at that point of actually, no, I need the guidance. Whereas a lot of some people turn and go, actually, let's see how far I can go. If I give 9 months worth of training, if I give 165%, let's see what I can attain, right?
Yeah, and I think like that, like I just done my first Ironman off the back of it, and I think going into that BDR role really did help me having that training behind me from the Ironman in a way of consistency, and it just like being able to continue every single day, just be consistent, pick up the phone. I don't want to do it like, and I think that did help me. You know, the early mornings or doing training when I didn't want to. It's very similar to cold calling. Like nobody likes doing it, or nobody likes like trying to do it. So yeah, that sort of discipline was a big part of my success at DG or BDR, at the BDR. Sorry.
Yeah. And so on that point, then top 3 takeaways, Jonathan. What would you say? Top 3 takeaways for you? What would they be?
Yeah. So first one would be consistency. So breaking down as a BDR, you need to be able to break down your goals into small, achievable daily actions. Try to get really kind of micro focused on what can you be doing right now in the next hour to help you move to one step closer towards your goals. Because at an all up level, if you look at, you know, maybe some of your KPIs, it can be very daunting. So break it down into an actionable piece that you can execute on a daily basis. The next would be so important as a BDR to kind of build your brand through people. And one kind of tip that I have is if you're meeting someone, especially if it's a senior leader, you have a unique vantage point wherever you are in the business. So try to bring that point of view to that person that you're meeting and try to add some value. So for an example of this could be like, oh, hey, like senior director, I'm a BDR and this is a type of messaging that I'm seeing working really well. And you could maybe present that as at the end of your networking call, share it with them and say, hey, if you find this interesting, let me know and we can have another call. Like your internal stakeholders are as much your customers as a BDR if you're starting at the bottom. So make sure that you're building up that network of people and adding value along the way, not just saying I'm a BDR and I'm going to extract all of this information from you. Try to bring something, even if it's small, to those people. And then the last piece, and Alex, this is something that you were really adamant on making me learn in the ramp up stage of my BDR experience, was really get down to the why. I think as a BDR, especially, your tendency and your preference is I'm a sales rep, I need to pitch. And you're so like amped up and ready to just pitch what your product is because you know about this product. And you actually need to get down to the why of why something is a particular problem and try to really understand why a customer is feeling a particular challenge. And that is only at that very, very clear stage when you have a clear why, that's when you pitch a particular product or service. So I think that's just another piece to add. So yeah, consistency, building your brand through others by adding value, and also just getting down to the why.
So I think it's a good time to mention that one of the best things the only thing I can jump on the back of there is your point 2 around your personal brand. There's a book called Key Person of Influence, KPI by Daniel Priestley, and it's all around how you get seen as an industry expert in your space. And if I look at what you're doing on LinkedIn at the moment, Jonathan, you're on podcasts, you're releasing articles, you're blogging quite a lot. You're starting to position yourself either intentionally or otherwise as a go-to-market person, especially in your PE SME market, right? And I think one of the biggest things I've ever been encouraged to do is start to be known as a subject matter expert in SME for something. And you could be 19, you could be 16 and start to build that. In fact, I'd say the younger you are, within reason, the better it is to start. So it's the best point, I think, for me anyway, is the best point that I took away from that is like that personal brand networking and bringing a bit of value to someone is mega. So let's talk about the transitioning, because you obviously within 9 months, a year, were in an account manager role, right? Which you always said to me, I want to get into the finance world. I want to get into the PE back stuff because that's where I feel strongest. So congratulations on that. Run us through the transition from the BDR mindset to an account manager, and then let's talk about experience quickly.
Yeah, so I think the mindset from from becoming a BDR, which is like really you are a hunter and you're trying to progress customers onto the platform and trying to, you know, be very proactive in your prospecting. And the pivot to account manager is really about, okay, we've now got this customer interested. How do we make this a reality, and how do we help them onboard to the platform quickly and address their pain points accurately? And I think that's something that there is a shift, and you have to learn a bit more on the technical side as to what are the supports that are going to be needed, and also you know, what customers need. Yeah, understanding a bit more about like how to actually get customers, you know, building things on the platform, because AWS isn't a SaaS product. For a customer to actually, you know, realize a sell as an account manager, you need them to build, you need them to actually get full buy-in. So it's a lot more strategic in thinking with your customers, not very transactional, and you're building really long-term relationships with these businesses. So like I've had a number of customers who I've worked with now for kind of 3.5 years, and it's been unbelievable to like see how we're actually helping them, you know, be at the forefront of Gen AI, or really making some of these big enterprise challenges a reality through cloud technology. So there is that would be the main sort of shift between the two roles.
And then so in the expectations that customers have on you from BDR to account manager, what is the expectation that customers now have on you? So as a BDR, talk to us just in a sentence or two. What do customers expect of you? But account managers, what's the expectation?
I think as a BDR at AWS, you're kind of a door opener. So you're the first person that, you know, these businesses are talking to about the cloud, and really kind of articulating the value of some of the generic sort of value that AWS can bring to this specific business. I think the difference is when you're an account manager, you know, you have to really get to understand the unique business, how they may use the cloud, and be able to firstly understand what teams we can bring in to help support their vision and what they're trying to build on the platform. And then also understand from a business standpoint, how can we make it a reality for their business in terms of getting buy-in from a few other people. So what I'd say is like the account manager role is a lot more you're managing the end-to-end cycle of the deal, whereas the BDR function is a lot more sort of just, you know, you're creating opportunities and being that door opener, but the account manager is responsible for actually progressing those opportunities to launch.
Very cool. And Jonathan, completely conscious of your time, man, and we've just had a little nudge saying 5 minutes left, which is absolutely flown by. So I'd love to ask you, I've got 2 questions left for you. The first one I'll share, which is, what advice kind of would you give the 20-year-old version of you? So like, I don't need to rephrase it. So what would you give you?
I think the main piece of advice I'd give my 20-year-old self is like, be proud of like the person who you are. Don't listen to the noise or what other people are good at. Like, try to actually focus on the skills and the characteristics that make me, and build a career and build my life around those characteristics. There's no point in kind of comparing yourself. And I think when I was a 20-year-old, I'd also probably tell myself to stay away from the bars, and as those Jaeger vibes might come back to haunt you. But I do think that the skills piece is really important. Like, try to just be happy within yourself and not comparing yourself to everyone else, because everyone is on a different path and everyone has a different journey, and there's no point in comparing. Try to get better yourself and not compare yourself to others. And then I'd also think, I mentioned earlier on, but really just enjoying the process, not the goals. Like, I think when you're 20, it's like, okay, I'm going to graduate, then I'm going to get a good job, then I'm going to go to account manager. And it's like, you're rushing through the stages just to hit these goals. And then are you actually am I doing everything I can to make sure that I'm learning everything I can along that journey, or am I just really trying to progress and progress and progress? And I think, really focusing on, learning and development and being the best person I can be, and trying to be cognizant of that, because a role, a title, a next step, a milestone, they're all just points in time, and it's about the person that you and the skills you pick up along the way that are more important. So I think that's another big thing that I would tell my 20-year-old self.
I'm 32, man, and I'm only just starting to grasp that now. So it's a tough one to get right, because if you think about how schooling is set up, you're set up to progress. Year 6, year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, all the way up, and it's like constant progression. And some of the best things that I've found recently is like, or one of the hardest things I'm finding to do, I can go and cycle for 24 hours straight. I can go and build a business. I can go and get to certain revenue targets. And that stuff's easy, man. It's simple. So it's not easy. It's simple, right? I tell you what I'm struggling with at the moment is like, even when I'm meditating, even when I'm in the forest and I'm chilling out and I'm like trying to relax, trying to silence your mind and trying to switch your mind to like slow down and just take an hour to yourself is really, really tough. I don't know if you ever experienced something similar, or if you've nailed that. If you have, like, please share.
Absolutely. You can probably see the gerbil running around my brain right now. No, I'm messing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In me, you can just hear the hamster wheel. It's crazy.
I think absolutely, like even like I've changed my habits a bit, but I used to just be like up early in the morning, and I used to sort of have an indirect competition to myself, but how early or how quickly can I get out the door after waking up, without just like, taking a bit of time to like, ease myself into the day. And like, I think, 100% taking a bit of time to kind of slow down and also appreciate where where you're going, and ultimately what's driving you. So that's something I'm kind of challenging my inner Marcus Aurelius to be a bit more stoic in my mindset going forward.
Have you read the book 365 Daily Habits of Stoicism?
No, I'm reading Meditations at the moment for the first time. So it's 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 an insanely powerful book to think that like to think how long ago Meditations is written, and so much of the learnings that he is saying are so applicable to any kind of sales leader or any business owner at the moment, I think is super interesting, and also just mad that someone would write so eloquently in their kind of own little diary. I think like that sort of stuff sort of mad. Like he never knew that any of this was gonna be published, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. But yeah, I haven't read that book.
Well, in that case, then the final question, Jonathan, which is, what is either your favorite dessert, but if you don't eat sugar, which I'd understand, what has been, let's go for it. What's your favorite dessert?
Favorite dessert? This is a rogue one. I'm trying to. Banoffee pie is the first thing that comes up to my it comes into my head, but now I feel like I'm a bit of a weirdo for saying that. So
why banoffee pie, man? It's people shit on banoffee pie, but I think banoffee pie is great. Good choice. Good choice. All right, man. Well, what about me? Oh gosh, I'm a cheesecake man, but I don't know. Cheesecake, I'm gonna go with cheesecake. I'd go with like a pistachio cheesecake or something, but only after I'm going through this whole death of the ego stuff at the moment, death like ignition of the soul, and I'm working with a woman called Charlotte Harris, and we're doing a lot around sugar addiction, because I'm trying to remove the need for like refined sugars and all of this kind of stuff. Not that I have a problem. I'm not like overweight or anything. I haven't got diabetes, but I'm trying to understand cravings, which is why I'll probably catch up with you offline around the meditation thing and the stoicism stuff, because man, it's where I'm going and it's sick. Anyway, Jonathan, appreciate you, man. Thank you. Any closing thoughts? Any final points, or you think we did it?
No, yeah, I think all is good. And yeah, if anyone ever wants to connect, you'll have my LinkedIn, and always more than happy to talk to any young sellers looking to get into the industry or just learn a bit more. So yeah.
Well done, dude. In that case, big love to you. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you very, very soon. Cheers, dude.
Thank you.